Hello. Before I hit the play button and you hear the music for Football for Kids, I need to wish a very happy birthday to Zach, who will be 8 on the 7th of May. He loves the podcast and he listens to it every night. And I know that his favourite team is Manchester City and he loves Haaland and Edison. He's the goalkeeper for Orpington Rovers Lions under-8s and he saved 2 penalties this season. What a goalie. Orpington Rovers Lions under-8s are actually looking for some new players. So, if you know the team and you're from around that area, please do get in touch because they would love to hear from you. Zach talks about football from the moment he wakes up until the moment he goes to sleep, and he probably dreams about it as well. Well, Zach, this is a very happy birthday to you from me and everybody who listens to the Football for Kids podcast. I hope that you have a fantastic day, and thank you so much for being a listener. Right then, it's time to hit the play button. Here comes the guitar. Welcome to the Football for Kids podcast with me, Darren Rees. We're going to be talking about yet another legend on Legends Week. This time, one of the greatest goalkeepers who's ever lived. The man who was known as the Black Panther and the Black Spider, Lev Yashin. Before we do this episode and the shout-outs and the messages, I wanted to say a massive thank you to everyone who is supporting the podcast via Patreon. I can't tell you how much it helps. If you're able to become a super listener, the details are in the description of this episode. Right then, let's do some shout-outs, shall we? The first one says, "Hi Darren, my name is Toby and I am 7 years old. Can you do a shout-out to my team? Swarthmore under 7s and our super coach, who is Toby's dad. Well, a big shout out to everybody in your team, Toby, and your wonderful coach and brilliant dad." He says, "Me and my dad listened to your podcast before bed and we really enjoyed the episode on Messi. Can you do an episode on Bruno Fernandes or a part 2 on Rashford? Me and my dad are United fans and love watching these two play. I've told all my friends about your podcast, so I hope they are listening. Keep up the good work, from Toby and his dad." And he finishes his message with a humongous 2. Thank you, Toby and Toby's dad. And the next one is from William and Jacob McCarth. They say, "Please can you do a shout out to the football team Malden and Tiptree? They've only just started listening to the podcast and they really like it. They wanted me to do episodes on Pele and Cristiano Ronaldo. Well, good news for you two. There are already episodes on those two. So go and have a look through the library and I'm sure you'll find them and hopefully you'll really enjoy them. Thank you for being listeners and thank you very much for your message." And the last one on this episode says, "Hello Darren, this is Felix. I'm 7 years old and my sister told me about your podcast from the Week Junior magazine. I support Tottenham and Brentford. Please can you do an episode about Hugo Lloris? I love him because he is Tottenham's goalie. I'm a really good goalie too and I'm inspired by him to be a really good goalkeeper. I always listen to your podcast when I'm bored and I like learning about players. Bye, from Felix." Well, thank you very much for your message, Felix, and to your sister for telling you about the podcast, and a huge thank you to the Week Junior magazine for making Football for Kids their podcast of the week. I really appreciate you being a listener, and I really am thankful for your message. Right then, let's get into this episode, shall we? About the sensational Lev Yashin. Lev Yashin was born in Moscow, Russia on the 22nd of October, all the way back in 1929. When Yashin was young, there was a world war going on, and at just 12 years old, he was forced to work in a factory to help out with the war efforts. This made him very unwell, and he had to stop working in the factory. He ended up getting taken to work in the military. Yashin played for the factory football team, And when he was there, he was spotted as being an extremely talented goalkeeper who was fast and acrobatic. He was given an opportunity to sign up for Moscow Dynamo, a very good team in the Russian leagues. Yashin would arrive early for training every session, and he would stay on late after every training session, kicking and throwing the ball at the wall and catching it on its return. When he wasn't in goal, he would stand behind the net and watch the ball like a hawk and pretend to save the ball. He did everything he could to make himself better. After Yashin spent some time with the youth team, Yashin made his way to the first team as a senior player, but as a third-choice goalkeeper. Lev Yashin's debut with the first team came about under unusual circumstances. The second-choice keeper was away from the game and unwell, and the first-choice keeper was injured on the pitch. Out of nowhere, Yashin was called up to take his position for Moscow Dynamo. This was his unbelievable chance on a huge stage to show the fans and manager how good he was. But the nerves and the pressure got too much, and he let a goal go in, which he would have normally dealt with ease. Lev Yashin's dad wasn't the most supportive person when he was playing football, and he advised him to go back working in the factory. He told Lev, "You won't amount to much. Go back to the factory. You could be successful there." Lev was having none of it though. He loved football, and that is exactly what he wanted to do. Yashin only had a couple of opportunities after letting that goal in on his debut. After that, he didn't get another chance until 3 years later. He kept practicing and training with the reserves though. He also joined the Moscow Dynamo ice hockey team as a goalkeeper. For the ice hockey team, he won major tournaments and leagues. The ice hockey helped him with his reaction times and keeping his eye firmly on the puck. Good skills and experience for playing in goal with the football team. In 1953, 3 years after making a big blunder, he made it back to the first team and played 18 games that season. He was also high in the tables for the most clean sheets out of all of the goalkeepers across the Russian league. Yashin made some unbelievable saves from set pieces and penalties. He dived and stretched and almost always got the ball. Finally, he was being noticed for how good he was. The hard work and determination was starting to pay off. A year later, Lev Yashin got called up to play for the national side, and in these days, he played for the Soviet Union. For the Soviet Union, he won the 1956 Olympics, the European Cup, and played in 4 World Cup tournaments. In 1960 and in 1961, Yashin was nominated for the prestigious Ballon d'Or award. He didn't win in either of the years, but he did come in the top 5. 2 years later, Lev Yashin was nominated for the Ballon d'Or again, and he won. To this day, he is still the only goalkeeper in the history of the sport to have actually won the award. A truly incredible achievement. In 1963, there was a very special match played at Wembley Stadium. It was the England team against the rest of the world. The rest of the world team was made up with players across the globe. Lev Yashin was the goalkeeper for that game. Although England won the game 2-1, Yashin, who always wore black, made so many saves in that game that he was nicknamed as the Black Spider, because it was like he had 8 arms. The Dynamo Moscow fans never called him the Black Spider though. To them, he was the Black Panther. Yashin remained with Dynamo Moscow for his entire career, from a youth player to retiring. In fact, he spent 20 years with the club, smashing all sorts of records playing as a league keeper and for the Soviet Union. Yashin saved 151 penalties and kept over 270 clean sheets. Do you remember what Yashin's dad said to him about going back to the factory and that he wouldn't amount to anything? Well, he proved him wrong, didn't he? Over his career, which stretched across 2 decades and hundreds of games, Lev Yashin won a gold medal at the 1956 Olympics, won the Soviet top league 5 times, and competed in the biggest football tournament in the world on several occasions. He did it because he loved what he did. He did it because he was passionate about football and playing in goal. And he did it because he never, ever gave up. I hope that you've enjoyed listening and learning about the absolutely amazing Lev Yashin, probably the best goalkeeper who's ever lived. And remember, if you know someone who loves football just as much as you do, then please tell them about Football for Kids. And whether you're playing football soon, watching it on the telly or pitch side, I hope that you enjoy the game. See you next time.